All right, Chris, thank you so much for joining me this morning. Looking forward to diving into the review process with you. I guess before we get started really on, what you've achieved and all the fantastic things you've done, could we maybe revisit where you were before you started this program? Where you were at with your weight and your fitness and all that good stuff.
Sure. See, you and I started together about 90 days ago. So before that, summertime, I was probably weighing in 225, 230, looking fairly portly in the reflection. I'm not going to say that I was, struggling to do things, but definitely seeing pictures of myself on vacation, I was not too pleased with what I saw, especially with the kayak sitting pretty low in the water.
Gotcha. So for you, it was an aesthetics thing, right? It wasn't like you were limited in life. It was just not necessarily loving how you felt about the way you looked.
Yeah, exactly. And I hadn't worked out with any passion or anything for probably 10 years. So it was definitely a kick in the ass to get moving.
Absolutely. And then, what had you tried before you and I started working together? Was this the first thing you'd done in a long time, or had there been like a diet or a workout or two along the way?
First thing I've done in a long time, I had tried just doing cardio for probably a month. And by cardio, I just mean walking an hour every day on my lunch break. Didn't really change anything else about my life, but I've walked for an hour. And I guess as to be expected, nothing really changed. That went by the wayside. And then you and I had been talking one night, and I probably had one or too many bourbons in me and said, screw it, let's do it.
Yep. Love it. Little bit of liquid courage to make good decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So maybe let's recap, your results a little bit. So over the 90 days, I think we dropped about 15 pounds in total, which is fantastic. That's, a pound dropped, more than a pound dropped each week. And then on the measurement side of stuff, I think it was pretty much 4 inches around the waist, 4 inches around the chest as well. And then we grew the biceps pretty much an inch. So I think we can be fairly confident in saying that we traded some fat for muscle. How do you feel about those results?
I'm pretty stoked about them. It's actually probably more weight than what is captured in your app, because I do remember weighing in around 225 on my package scale out in the garage. And we tested the validity of that scale, and it is within a half pound of what we're weighing in upstairs. So
Okay.
225 this Friday, weighed in at 199 even. So, probably closer to 25 pounds down.
Probably more than that. Yeah, dang. All right. So that explains the big drops on the measurements as well.
Shoulders here, but I think I've gained like 2 inches in shoulders too.
Dang. Dude,
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
shoulders, but now they look like tents around the waist. So
Got the Dorito shaped torso.
not quite, but it's the closest it's been in my lifetime, I think.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Has anyone noticed or said anything, Chris?
Oh yeah, I mean, within the first 2 weeks, my sister-in-law noticed, and I was actually wearing this shirt. I'll send you a picture of me wearing it last year, and it's a completely different me inside the shirt. So within 2 weeks, she was saying something. Folks at work are definitely noticing, and my dad actually noticed the last time I was up there helping him. The guy always making fun of my chicken legs, and then I'm rolling around under the car trying to fix it for him, and he goes, God damn, you have been working out your legs. Like, yeah, I have.
That's awesome. Nothing like fatherly approval to validate the hard work, right?
Yeah, I don't get that too often from him. So
Awesome. Very cool. And, would you say quality of life is better, Chris? I know before we started this, it wasn't like you were struggling to make it upstairs or anything like that. But, do you feel like you're in a better spot now?
yeah, I mean, the energy is definitely there. If I could learn to go to bed a little bit earlier. I've got my wife on the program with me now too, and it's definitely a lot easier with two of us on the same page than doing it by myself. So I'd say that is the biggest change in the overall quality of life. And our daughter making fun of us for being on diets and telling us she's going to send you pictures of the bad food we're eating.
That's adorable. But it's really cool that, you've got the family involved. And I know that being on the same page in the household really does make quite a difference.
Yeah,
So it's great that I think you've been able to implement that.
the biggest difference really is the food, like healthy food doesn't have to suck. And I think that's the biggest thing at least I've pulled out of this with you, is that I can cook normal food and still be within the parameters of the quote unquote diet.
Yeah, maybe that's a good way to segue or transition, in terms of lessons learned either in nutrition or exercise. What do you feel has been the biggest contributor to your success outside of, just being able to eat normal food and still lose weight?
Th- Once I figured out where I was, what kind of calories I was eating during a day, um, I kind of threw the calorie counting out the window, as I knew where I was and kind of where I had to be. I know you and I talked back and forth a few times on the full body workouts, which eventually I was not prepared for, because I always did the bodybuilding type workouts. And actually, I kind of like the full body thing now, because I'm not almost never sore except for stupid Bulgarian squats. Yeah, I mean, I've noticed a huge gain in my chest just doing that, and I wish I had known that 20 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. It's cool that you've kind of gone from the old school way of thinking, I think, to the new school way, which is fantastic. And I think it goes to show that just because what you did 20 years ago worked then doesn't mean that it's going to work the same now. And being able to not feel as sore all the time and still get the results, I think, to me, that's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of wish I'd known it, like I said, known it 20 years ago, because I probably would have made a lot better gains then.
Absolutely. And I think, I think what you did on the calorie counting side of things is exactly, the way it should be done for the majority of people. It's like you build an awareness of calories, you understand how to budget them. And then if you have a pretty good routine of food, you don't necessarily need to count calories for the rest of time, right? You use it as a learning experience. And then you're able to kind of just keep that information in the back pocket and use it as needed. And then you just get to eat normal. And I know you guys have done a great job cooking at home and just eating, real food that tastes good, right? Like buffalo mac and cheese. I know you found that recipe and shared it with me, which was, I great, and I appreciate you sharing it with me. Was there anything else that was a pleasant surprise throughout this process, Chris?
I really how quickly things happen. I don't. I may be an anomaly. I know everybody's different, but I dropped quite a bit of weight right off the bat, and then plateaued for 2 months, which kind of sucks mentally, but you can still see changes happening. Um, yeah, I mean, the whole thing is just. I've told you before. It's just you were the one who put it all together for me. Kind of had all the information there, just didn't know how to use it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And let's actually touch on that weight thing, because what was interesting, I've got the numbers up on my other screen here. Weight did plateau for like a while because it dropped so quick, like it dropped like a stone and then kind of just meandered over the course of 8 weeks. But measurements were still kind of changing throughout that. And
Oh
I
yeah, they
think,
dropped that.
yeah, I think that kind of connects to the other point you made about structure, right? Like everyone kind of knows you have to eat less food. Everyone knows you have to work out, but when you put everything in the right structure, you start tracking things appropriately, it all kind of just slots into place and it allows progress to be made. And if we weren't tracking measurements at the same time as tracking body weight, who knows? It may have made you discouraged enough to kind of second guess yourself in terms of the process. But when the waste is still decreasing, even if the scale is staying the same, we're okay with that. It means we're just swapping out fat mass for muscle mass. And as you mentioned, you've been able to build really solid muscle throughout this entire process. So, I appreciate your reflection there. And also, I think it's just such an important point to have that structure in place to allow you to get you to where you want to be.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's really what I needed, was the structure, somebody to tell me what to do. I'm really good at following instructions. So if somebody tells me what to do and when to do it, I'll do it. And that's where you came in and told me what I could and couldn't eat, or how much I should and shouldn't eat of whatever I was doing, and then how to work out. And man, it all came together really nicely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Chris, looking back, is there anything that you were nervous about kind of heading into the program?
Nervous may not be the right word, but I've always been pretty apprehensive of having a coach in general. But because I'm pretty sure I'm like everybody else. I thought I knew it all, and I mean, in some ways did know it, but I didn't know how to put it together. So I really didn't know it all. And this was the doing it from afar or digitally was kind of different. Still have problems with that at work. I can work at home just fine, but doing interviews on screen are weird.
Yeah, they can be. And but if it wasn't for the digital thing, we never would have connected in the first place. You're over in Florida, I'm over in Texas. It would have been pretty hard for us to do that commute to meet somewhere in the middle for in-person stuff. So it is different for a lot of people. And I think that what you just said will resonate with a lot of people potentially watching this. It's like it feels like you know what to do and how to do it, but sometimes you just need an outside pair of eyes to be able to see the things that you don't see in the mirror and just connect some dots that are very close to each other, but you just need someone else to kind of bridge that gap.
Yep.
If we were in an alternate reality, Chris, where do you think you would be if you and I had never connected, right? If we'd never found each other through Facebook, do you still think you'd be in kayak shape?
Yeah, I mean, I'd still be exactly where I was in July of this summer. I may have been walking or doing cardio at lunch, but I wouldn't have been as I guess religious about it now. I mean, folks on my team here at work, my boss, they all know that from 11 to 12:30, you're not going to find me in my office. You'll find me down in the gym, and nobody comes and bothers me because they know what's going on. It's just at this point now, it's complete and it's a habit at this point.
Fantastic. Yeah, it sounds like you're in the right rhythm. And importantly, right, we all know that careers are important. We all know that taking home a paycheck's important, but ultimately your health is gonna stick with you a lot longer than a job will. So
Yep.
I think it's really cool that you're just taking not a huge amount of time, but enough time to prioritize yourself in the middle of the workday. And I think that's a really cool example that a lot of people will do be well served to follow in your footsteps there. I guess last question, Chris. What would you maybe say to someone who is listening to this, watching this, and thinking maybe that's something I could do? What would you say to someone considering enrolling in the program?
I mean, I think I've already said it. I got my wife on the program, so I'd say to stop thinking about it and just do it. I spent the better part of a year thinking about it, and looking back, I've basically wasted that year. We could have been doing this whole interview a year ago. Yeah, so it goes back to when you asked me why I decided to do it. I was like, because if I wait till tomorrow, I'll just keep waiting until tomorrow. So
Absolutely.
waiting and just do it now.
Awesome. Well, dude, thanks so much for your time this morning. And I appreciate you sharing your thoughts, sharing your reflections, and especially the lessons and things that you've kind of taken from this process. I'm psyched that I'm still working with you, for the next few months, and excited to see where we end up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been the best money I've spent in a long time.
Awesome. Dude, that means a ton. I appreciate it, Chris.
Sure.